there, science thinkers! How are you today? I hope you're doing great. I am Teacher Javi. Welcome back to Science 5. Learning science is made fun and easy right here on your favorite classroom on TV. This is Aral TV. Plants have evolved different reproductive strategies for the continuation of their species. Some plants reproduce sexually and others asexually. Plants' sexual reproduction usually depends on pollinating agents, while asexual reproduction is independent of these agents. For today's episode, you are expected to describe the modes of reproduction of flowering and non-flowering plants. Prepare your pen, paper, self-learning module, and everything you need for this learning session. All set? Let's begin! For your first activity, examine the following pictures of plants. Tell whether it is a flowering or a non-flowering plant. Write FP if it is a flowering plant and NFP if non-flowering plant. Say your answer after hearing this sound. Here is number 1. Ferns. What is your answer? Correct! NFP. Ferns are non-flowering plants. Number 2. Hibiscus. What is your answer? Awesome! FP. Hibiscus is a flowering plant. Number 3. Moses. What is your answer? You got it right! NFP. Mosses are non-flowering plants. Number 4. Jasmine. What is your answer? Good job! FP. Jasmine is a flowering plant. Number 5. Conifers. What is your answer? Very good! NFP. Conifers are non-flowering plants. Science thinkers, how did you find the activity? I know you did well. You are amazing. Stay focused. Here's more. Read the following statements. Arrange the jumbled letters to form the correct word being described. You have 5 seconds to answer each item. Write your answers on your paper. Number 1. The act of transferring pollen grains from the male anther of a flower to the female stigma. The correct answer is pollination. Number 2 is the process which grows new plants from a variety of sources, seeds, cuttings, and other plant parts. The correct answer is propagation. Number 3. are plants that produce flowers and bear their seeds in fruits. The correct answer is angiosperms. Number 4 is a group of flowerless plants which produce seeds that are not contained within an ovary or fruit. The correct answer is gymnosperms. Number 5. It is the female part of a flower. It consists of the stigma, style, and ovary. The correct answer is pistil. How many words were you able to arrange correctly? If 5, very good. 4 to 3, good. 2 and down, please focus more and aim to get a higher score. What are the modes of reproduction of plants? Do we have the same answer? Yes, plants reproduce through sexual or asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction produces offspring when pollen grains from the anther are transferred to the stigma of a flower. This process is called pollination. The flowers contain male sex organs called stamens and female sex organs called pistils. The anther is the part of the stamen that contains pollen. This pollen needs to be moved to a part of the pistil called the stigma. Angiosperms or flowering plants rely on pollination for reproduction. What is pollination and what are its types? Pollination is usually brought about by wind, insects, or birds. Animals and other agents that aid in sexual reproduction of plants are called agents of pollination. There are two kinds of pollination: self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or a different flower that belongs to the same plant. Cross-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of another flower that belongs to another plant but of the same kind. Cross-pollination is the most common form of pollination. Pollinators are animals that carry pollen between plants. Many pollinators are insects like bees, butterflies, moths, and beetles. Some birds, including hummingbirds, also play a part. Likewise, certain mammals like bats and rodents move pollen between plants. The colors and smells of flowers often attract pollinators. Pollen will stick to a pollinator's body as it feeds on the flower's nectar. Once a pollen grain enters the stigma, it swells and grows a long tube that travels through the style until it reaches the ovary. The tube releases the sperm cells into the ovule to fertilize the egg cell. The fertilized egg cell and the ovule itself develop into a seed. The ovary then enlarges and thickens its wall to become a fruit. This will be the receptacle for the seeds. These seeds can eventually grow into a new plant. Seeds produced through fertilization contain genetic material from both parents. As a result, the offspring are not genetically identical to either of the parent plants. This genetic diversity can help them survive if the environment changes. How do you describe non-flowering plants? Non-flowering plants can also be reproduced using cones and seeds. They rely on dispersion to continue their life cycle. They are called gymnosperms. Some gymnosperm species have male and female cones on the same tree, while others have separate male or female cone-producing trees. Fertilization in gymnosperms occurs when pollen grains contact the female ovule and germinate. One of the most common types of gymnosperms is the pine tree. In gymnosperms, seeds are called naked seeds as they are exposed. The key difference between angiosperms and gymnosperms is how their seeds are developed. The seeds of angiosperms develop in the ovaries of flowers and are surrounded by a protective fruit. Gymnosperm seeds are usually formed in unisexual cones known as strobili, and the plants lack fruits and flowers. What are the different methods of asexual reproduction in plants? Vegetative propagation does not require seeds or spores. Instead, offspring grow from a part of the parent plant. In different plants, vegetative propagation happens in different ways. Here are a few examples. Garlic, onions, and chili plants all reproduce using tree bulbs. These short underground stems are also called scaly bulbs. They have a basal plate that is usually surrounded by modified leaves. These leaves form a papery covering called a tunic. The new bulbs grow off from the parent bulb's basal plate. Crocuses reproduce using corms, which are similar to true bulbs. However, a corm doesn't have as many layers. Corms are used up during the growing season and get replaced by one or more new corms. Potato plants reproduce using tubers. These underground growths produce new plants from stems or growing points called eyes. Ginger plants reproduce using rhizomes. These stems that grow sideways along the soil or just below the surface. They branch apart to produce new points of growth. Strawberry plants reproduce using stolons. They look like branches growing along the ground. Stolons anchor themselves to the ground and develop roots, and these roots grow into new plants. Another form of asexual reproduction is fragmentation. What is fragmentation? Fragmentation involves new plants growing from small parts of the parent plant that fall to the ground. For example, animals or the wind can break stems or leaves off plants. This is one of the ways that plants like liverworts and mosses reproduce. Congratulations, science thinkers! You have just reached the end of our session. Let's check what you have learned. Analyze the following questions. Choose the letter of the correct answer. Write your answers on your paper. Number 1. What do you call the reproduction in plants where the male and female parts of the flowers are involved? A. Asexual. B. Budding. C. Pollination. D. Sexual. The correct answer is letter D. Sexual. Number 2. Which part of a plant cannot undergo vegetative propagation? A. Stem. B. Fruit. C. Leaves. D. Roots. The correct answer is letter B. Fruit. Number 3. What type of pollination happens when pollen grains from anther are transferred to the stigma of a flower that belongs to the same plant? A. A cross-pollination. B. Auto-pollination. C. Cross-pollination. D. Self-pollination. The correct answer is letter D. Self-pollination. Number 4. Which plant can reproduce through bulb? A. Coconut. B. Fern. C. Mango. D. Onion. The correct answer is letter D. Onion. Number 5. What kind of reproduction involves only one parent plant? A. Asexual. B. Fertilization. C. Pollination. D. Sexual. The correct answer is letter A. Asexual. Number 6. Which of the following examples is a tuber? A. Guava plant. B. Mango plant. C. Orange plant. D. Potato plant. The correct answer is letter D. Potato plant. Number 7. Which of the following is a rhizome? A. Corn. B. Katakataka. C. Ginger. D. Onion. The correct answer is letter C. Ginger. Number 8. What would happen if a butterfly sips nectar from a flower? A. Flower could wilt. B. Pistil could break. C. Stamen could develop a tube. D. Pollen grains could fall on the stigma. The correct answer is letter D. Pollen grains could fall on the stigma. Number 9. What kind of reproduction uses pollen grains? A. Asexual. B. Fragmentation. C. Propagation. D. Sexual. The correct answer is letter D. Sexual. Number 10. Which is true about asexual propagation? A. Only plants use asexual propagation. B. All organisms use asexual propagation. C. There is only one parent involved in asexual propagation. D. There are at least 2 parents involved in asexual propagation. The correct answer is letter C. There is only one parent involved in asexual propagation. How many correct answers did you get? If you got 10, excellent. 8 to 9, very good. 5 to 7, good. 4 and below, don't worry, you can study again this lesson and do better. Today, we learned the modes of reproduction in flowering and non-flowering plants. I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot. Science thinkers, you can view this video through our YouTube channel. Search Aral TV Deped Leyte click like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to check the newest uploads. Again, I am Teacher Javi. Goodbye!